Hello, everyone. The topic for today is on comments, formats, and strings. So we are going to learn how to add comments to our code, how to edit the format of floating numbers, and how to perform basic string manipulations. So we'll start with adding comments. So comments are useful in leaving behind notes or to explain parts of the code to you or to us, the present programmer, or to future programmers. So we could look at it as leaving behind personal notes on how parts of our code would work. Okay, so we have two types of comments. We could leave behind single line comments or multiple line comments. So for single line comments, we may use the hash symbol or the number sign. And for multiple line comments, we may enclose our text inside triple apostrophes, such as this, or triple quotation marks, such as this. Let's try to look at one basic example. So here we have 4 lines of code that may perform the printing or giving out of a previously defined number from 1 to 100 stored to the variable x. Okay. So as we could observe, lines 1 and 2 are the comments because these lines start with the hash symbol. So it would be better to run this code. Let's copy this one and run it in our shell. Right. So the first 2 lines are the comments. Okay, so these gives us an idea on basically what this program would do. Okay, it might be that you have placed this here previously, or the original programmer has given this to us to enlighten us on how his or her code will work. Okay, so if we try to run this, basically, Python would tend to ignore lines 1 and 2. Okay, so give any number from 1 to 100. Let's say, for example, 4. So it prints out the number 4. So any line started with the hash symbol will be treated as comments. So they could be used as personal notes or guides. They could be placed in any part of the program. We could put it here, or we could put it here. So somehow gives us an idea on how each and every line, if possible, will work. Here's another example. This demonstrates the use of multiple line comments. So again, let's try to copy this one and place it in our editor right here. Okay, so how many lines of code? We have 9 lines of code. The only lines here that are, or that will be executed by Python will only be lines 1 and 9. So lines 2 to 8 are considered as comments or notes because of either these 3 apostrophe signs or these 3 quotation marks. Okay, so we could write anything here or here. So if we try to run this one, it executes line 1, give any number from 1 to 100. Say, for example, 5. I press enter, and Python executes line number 9, print out x. Okay, so it ignores the notes because the notes are not technically part of the code. This is for the programmer to give him or give himself or herself idea of how his or her code would work. Okay. Perhaps you could pause the video anytime if you'd like to do this on your own or with the Python program you have installed in your computers. Next up would be formatting floats or formatting floating numbers. Sometimes, uh, as we have observed from our previous seat work, sometimes floating point numbers need to be rounded off to few decimal places. Okay. To format floats, precede the variable inside the print function with exactly this set of codes, and then another using this one, and it involves a percentage sign and another percentage sign, where n here is the number of decimal numbers to be displayed. So let's say, for example, this one. Again, it would be best to run this in Python. So let's copy this one, paste it here. We have 3 lines of code. The first line is to define 1/3. The second line and the third line allows us to compare uh, formatted and unformatted floating numbers. So also as sort of a practice of adding comments, I'll try to add a hash symbol here so that Python will read line 3 as if it's just a comment. So it will ignore line 3. So this is also a good practice on testing your code. So if I'm going to run this one, we're going to see that the value of x is 0.3333. And how many decimal places does this have? Too many to mention. So what if I'll try to add formatting to this part of the code? So this time I'll try to ignore line 2. So I'll add a hash symbol. If you'd observe, I've replaced the n here with 2. So this would tell Python that I would like my floating number to be rounded off to only 2 decimal values. So if I'll run this one, the values of x, the value of x lang dapat may supposed to be. The value of x is 0.33. So Python rounded off 1/3 to 2 decimal places. So you could replace this one with any value that you'd like. If you'd like 5 decimal places, so yeah, it will only display 5 decimal values. So I'll try to edit my code. What if this will be 2/3 and only rounded off to 1 decimal place? Yeah. So instead of 0.67, it will round it off to 0.7 only. So for decimal value of 2, decimal values of 2, it will display 0.67. Okay. So the syntax for adding formatting to floating numbers is exactly this one. Quotation marks, then the percent symbol, then dot, then any number that we'd like, then F. F stands for floating point. Then after, we add another percent sign. Yeah, so that's it. Next is to perform very basic string manipulations. So before we do that, I'll introduce a new function, the len function. So the len function allows us to measure how many characters a string is composed of. So try to observe this piece of code. So first line defines the variable name with the input function, what is your nickname. Then it defines the variable y equal to the function len having the argument name inside of it. And last line will print out the text, your name is composed of, comma, the variable y, and then quotation mark letters. So let's try to run this one. So 3 lines of code. So if I run this, Python will execute the first line, what is your nickname? So let's try to say, for example, Ben. So inside, internally, Python will count how many characters the name Ben has. So clearly it has 3 characters. So the len or the length of the variable name is 3. So so now y is equal to 3. So Python will print out your name is composed of 3 letters. Okay. Another technique in string manipulations is to take advantage of its placement, the number of characters each pieces of string has. Okay, so how will Python, or how will we know how to perform this one? We by learning that each character of a string is assigned an index number. So each of the characters in a string is designated a specific index number, where the first character is index 0, and the next character will be index 1, and so on, which can be accessed by enclosing the index number, whether 0 or 1 or 2, by square brackets, or this one. Again, to demonstrate, let's copy this piece of code. So we have 4 lines of code. So this program might be part of a bigger software that automatically creates an email for a new employee. So something like that. So try to observe first before we run this one. So we have 3 lines of variable definition. We have 3 variables to be defined, variable A, B, and C, defined by the function input by entering our names. So enter your first name, enter your middle name, and enter your last name. So line 4 would define the variable initials. Okay, with what? With the first character of variable A. We know it's only the first character because A is followed by square brackets, and inside the bracket is the number 0. So meaning the first character of whatever name we're going to input after the first line will be executed. The same with B. Okay, so B, or the first character of the B variable. And lastly, the full string of that is stored in variable C. Okay, so we do not include any index numbers in C. So what would this look like? We will expect that it will give out or print out the statement, your assigned email address is the variable initials followed by at my.xu.edu.ph. So let's try to run this one. So enter your first name. Let's say, for example, my name is John. Okay. Enter your middle name, John Smith. Enter your last name, Doe. So after pressing enter, your assigned email address is jsdoe@my.xu.edu.ph. So this is just a very simple example of how to locate and extract each characters of a previously defined string. Okay, so you could try this for yourself. Try to edit the numbers inside these inside the square brackets. Okay. So that's it for today's lecture. You may practice each and every example in these slides, and you may also proceed to the activities portion in eLearn and perform whatever sit work that I will upload.